inspiration. Recently I have been participating in the Burnley and Trowbridge sew along, and I was really excited about this because I haven't done much 18th century sewing and costuming, and this has been just so fun. One of the things that I really strive for as a costumer on a budget is to find really frugal deals, and so I thought I would share with you the most recent costume that I've created for the Sew Along series, what inspired me, and how I've come up with my finished costume. So let's start with inspiration. This is a painting by artist Henry Walton. It was painted in 1776, and it is called Plucking the Turkey. And she has a lovely little pleated linen bonnet with a pink bow, bed gown with a fitted sleeve in an indigo polka dot print, and a great apron in a checkerboard pattern, and a bluish green petticoat. So in thinking about what I had on hand, automatically I thought, oh, I have the perfect piece of fabric for the apron. And you know, when I go visit places, I often love to go to thrift stores or flea markets, and as it happened 2 years ago, I had gone to a flea market in France. They call them vide grenier, and this was a beautiful piece of antique fabric that I just loved. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but it was around 10 euro, and it was over a yard, so it made it really perfect for the apron project. And the linen ties come from the Burnley and Trowbridge website, as well as the linen thread. And that was the first project that I completed in the sew along, and it was really close to what I had envisioned. Now, the next thing I created was a pair of pockets, and these were all done from scraps from previous pockets. So it's often called cabbage, but save your cabbage, because your small bits can make beautiful little caps, or in this case, a pair of pockets. 18th century women often carried a housewife or a little sewing kit in their pockets, and these are all definitely fabric scraps that I used in other projects. So keep that in mind. Now, for the bed gown, that was a little bit trickier. I had this hand-blocked fabric, which is historically accurate for the 18th century, but the polka dots were larger in scale. Sometimes you just have to accept that close enough is also good enough. The fabric was originally white with gray polka dots, and I ordered some indigo dye and dyed it so I would get the indigo color. Now, the fabric also happened to be very lightweight, and alone it wouldn't have draped like I wanted to, so I really needed to back it with another fabric. So in this case, it was a sheet. I often find sheets at thrift stores and estate sales for 50 cents, $1. And in historic costuming, you can use, as you well know, yards and yards of fabric. So sheets are a great way to get your budget to stretch. It wasn't quite the same color palette that I wanted. So again, this got a a dip in the indigo bath dye too. And that is the beauty of dyeing fabrics. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get, but it was a close enough color palette that it really worked. And so think about using sheets, but also fabric dye to make the fabric what you want for your vision. Now, the next thing I created was the petticoat, and I just really love this fabric. And this fabric came to me via another member of the Dallas-Fort Worth Costumers Guild that I belong to. Cluster Frock, who also has a YouTube channel, and I will link her below, announced on our Facebook page that there was an upholstery shop that was giving away fabric. And so I tootled over there really quick, and this was a beautiful silk and linen blend fabric. It is sort of a rustic weave, but that is perfect for the person that I'm portraying. And the twill tape also got a dye in the indigo bath. It is also from B&T. And I was so pleased because the pleats, even though it's upholstery fabric, they just hang so beautifully. And the fabric itself has a lot of nice drape. So think outside the box with your fabrics. They don't necessarily have to be what you think they would. Now, when I'm dealing with a bit more expensive fabric, I always do a mock-up, and I'm sure a lot of you do as well. So I actually did do a petticoat mock-up before, and this is just out of cotton muslin. And I love cotton muslin for mock-ups and twills. And again, I get it at estate sales for next to nothing. Recently, I actually kept the tag on it so I could share with you. So this was about 10 yards of muslin fabric, and they had it marked for $5. I went on the last day of the sale, so everything was half off, which made the 10 yards of fabric $2.50, which, do the math, it's mere pennies per yard for this, and I've only used half of it. So I used about 5 yards for this petticoat, and because it is a foundation petticoat, I also added a ruffle because that helps hold out the skirts and it's easier to walk in. A good rule of thumb is also, if you see a fabric but you don't necessarily have a project in mind, but you love it or it's great, get it. I didn't have anything in mind when I spotted this $3 a yard linen, but I definitely knew a good deal when I saw it. And the same thing for this beautiful lightweight cotton gauze fabric that works beautifully for neckerchiefs, fichus, caps, and the like. So always keep your eye open. And one thing too is when I am at the third day sales at estate sales, if you go in the afternoon right before they're closing, they just want to get rid of things. And I've come home with huge totes just filled with fabric. And not all of the fabric is what I personally would maybe use, but posting it in groups that I belong to, a lot of times I just swap fabrics that maybe necessarily aren't what I want for things that I do need. So case in point, I had a small piece of silk that was perfect for someone else's waistcoat. and I just swapped it for this beautiful pink silk ribbon that will go on my cap. And I often trade with other friends. A friend of mine, D'Artagnan, makes the most beautiful hand-loomed ribbons and tapes. And this was just an extra little piece, and I'm going to transform it into the garters for my stockings. So even, little scraps can really be useful. So don't overlook that. And I know that for many costumers, shoes is where they have a hard time. So keep your eye open. Last year, I found these at Old Navy, and they're very close to the 18th century mules that would have been worn by both men and women. They do have a rubber sole, which is not historically accurate, but if somebody's that close to my feet, well, that's probably not going to happen. So next week, I'll put on this whole ensemble so you can see it. And if you're thinking, okay, but what about the turkey? Well, I don't want any turkeys harmed during this photo reenactment, so I have one more costume to make. It'll be a turkey costume for this little turkey. And she is always a very willing participant. This is Gracie. So I hope you have enjoyed these tips and tricks. I next have plans to share with you an 1890s wrapper that I'm working on, and the great deal, it's under $5. So I'll share that in a future episode. Have a great day. Bye-bye.